My name is James Sullivan, and I am 31 years old. But this story really begins when I was 18, standing at a Greyhound bus station in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, holding $60 in cash and a backpack containing everything I owned. That was the day my family decided I was no longer their problem. That was the day they drove away without looking back. And that was the day I learned that sometimes the people who abandon you end up doing you the biggest favor of your life. Let me take you back to that day. June 7th, 13 years ago. It was my high school graduation day. I had just walked across the stage at Jefferson High School, gotten my diploma, and sat through a 2-hour ceremony in the sweltering heat of the gymnasium. I was not valedictorian. I was not salutatorian. I was not particularly special in any way. I had a 3.2 GPA, played JV basketball my sophomore year before quitting, and had exactly 3 friends who I occasionally hung out with. I was, in every sense of the word, average. My family consisted of my father, Richard Sullivan, my mother, Patricia Sullivan, my older brother, Derek, who was 22 and worked at the local Ford dealership, and my younger sister, Melissa, who was 15. We were lower middle class. Dad worked construction when he could get steady work, which was not always. Mom worked as a cashier at Walmart. We lived in a small 3-bedroom house that was always one missed payment away from foreclosure. Money was tight. It had always been tight. Growing up, I always felt like I was just taking up space in that house. Derek was the favorite son, the one who did everything right. He played football in high school, had a girlfriend his parents approved of, and landed a steady job right after graduation. He was everything they wanted in a son. Melissa was the baby, the daughter they had always wanted after having 2 boys. She could do no wrong in their eyes. She was sweet and helpful, and never caused any trouble. And then there was me, the middle child, not athletic like Derek, not adorable like Melissa, just average in every way. I remember birthdays where Derek got expensive gifts, and Melissa got toys she had been asking for, and I got practical things like socks or school supplies. I remember parent-teacher conferences where they would beam with pride when talking about Derek's accomplishments, even though he had graduated years before, and they would smile politely when my teachers said I was doing fine. Just fine. Never great. Never exceptional. Just fine. I learned early on not to ask for much, not to expect the same attention Derek and Melissa got. I made myself small, unobtrusive, easy to overlook. I thought if I did not cause problems, if I did not cost too much, if I just existed quietly, that would be enough. That they would at least want me around. But I never thought they would just get rid of me. After the graduation ceremony, we went home. No celebration dinner. No cake. No party. Just home. I changed out of my cap and gown and came downstairs to find my parents sitting at the kitchen table with serious expressions. "Sit down, James," Dad said. I sat. "You are 18 now," he said, not making eye contact. "You are a high school graduate. You are an adult." "Okay," I said, not understanding where this was going. "Which means you are old enough to take care of yourself now," Mom added. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "We have been taking care of you for 18 years. That is our legal obligation. But that obligation ended today." I looked between them, still not comprehending. "What are you saying?" "We are saying it is time for you to go," Dad said. "We cannot afford to keep supporting you. Derek still lives here. Melissa is still in school, and we are barely making ends meet as it is. You graduated. You can get a job. You can take care of yourself now." "Go where?" I asked, my voice rising in panic. "I do not have anywhere to go. I do not have any money. I do not have a job lined up." "That is not our problem anymore," Mom said, and there was something cold in her eyes, something I had never seen directed at me before. "You are an adult. Adults figure things out. Are you kicking me out? On my graduation day?" We are not kicking you out, Dad said. We are helping you transition to independence. There is a difference. What difference? I was standing now, my heart racing. You are telling me to leave. That is kicking me out. Do not raise your voice at your father. Mom snapped. We are doing what is best for this family. We have 2 other children to think about. We cannot afford to have a 3rd adult living here rent-free, eating our food, using our utilities. You need to go make your own way. I just graduated high school 3 hours ago. I do not even have a car. We will give you $60, Dad said, pulling out his wallet. That should be enough to get you started. You can take a bus somewhere. Find a city with jobs. You are young and healthy. You will figure it out. I stared at the 3 $20 bills he was holding out to me. $60. That was what 18 years of being their son was worth. $60 and a bus ticket to anywhere but here. This is insane, I said. You cannot just abandon me. We are not abandoning you, Mom said. We raised you. We fed you. We clothed you. We gave you a place to live for 18 years. Now it is your turn to stand on your own 2 feet. That is what growing up means. Where is Derek? I asked. Does he know about this? Derek is at work, Dad said. And yes, he knows. He understands this is what needs to happen. And Melissa, your sister does not need to be involved in this conversation. This is between us and you. I looked around the kitchen, this room where I had eaten breakfast every morning for 18 years, the table where I had done my homework, the refrigerator covered in old school photos and report cards. This was my home. These were my parents. This could not be happening, but it was happening. Pack your things, Mom said, standing up. We will drive you to the bus station in Shelbyville. You can catch a bus from there to Indianapolis or Louisville, or wherever you want to go. I do not want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. This is my home. James, do not make this harder than it has to be, Dad said, and there was a warning in his voice. We have made our decision. You are 18 years old. You are legally an adult. We are not required to house you anymore. Now you can either accept the money and the ride to the bus station, or you can refuse and figure it out on your own. But either way, you are not staying here. I realized in that moment that there was no arguing with them. They had made up their minds. I was not their son anymore. I was just an expense they could no longer afford. I went upstairs to my room, my hands shaking. I pulled out my old backpack from freshman year and started throwing things into it. Clothes, my phone charger, a few books, some photos. I had so little, and even that would not all fit. I had to make choices about what to take and what to leave behind. When I came back downstairs with my backpack, Derek had come home. He was standing in the living room with Mom and Dad, and when he saw me, he looked uncomfortable. Hey, James, he said. You knew about this. I asked him. You knew they were going to kick me out, and you did not say anything? Man, I try to talk to them about it, but they are right. We cannot afford to have everyone living here. I am paying rent. I am contributing. You just graduated. You do not have a job. What are you going to contribute? I am your brother. And I love you, man. But this is a business decision. Mom and Dad are struggling. They need to cut expenses. And you are the expense that makes the most sense to cut. A business decision. That was what I was. An expense to be cut. Melissa came out of her room then, and when she saw me with my backpack, her eyes filled with tears. James, where are you going? They are making me leave, Mel. What? Why? She looked at our parents. Why is James leaving? It is complicated, honey, Mom said. James is an adult now. He needs to go start his own life. But he just graduated today. He should stay. It is not fair. Life is not fair, Melissa, Dad said. The sooner you learn that, the better off you will be. I hugged Melissa. She was crying into my shirt, holding on tight. "I am going to be okay," I told her, even though I did not believe it. "I will call you, okay? I will stay in touch. Promise." I promise. That was a promise I would not be able to keep. The drive to the bus station was silent. 45 minutes of the most uncomfortable silence I had ever experienced. Derek drove because Dad said he needed to save gas. I sat in the back seat with my backpack on my lap, staring out the window at the Indiana countryside rolling by, trying to process what was happening to me. When we pulled up to the Greyhound station in Shelbyville, Derek put the car in park, but left it running. "Here," Dad said, turning around and handing me the $60. "This should get you a ticket and leave you a little extra for food." I took the money, because what choice did I have? "Any advice?" I asked, and I heard the bitterness in my own voice. "Find a job," Dad said. "Any job. Work hard. Save your money. Do not make stupid decisions. You will be fine. Good luck out there, son," Mom said, and the casual way she said it, like I was heading off to summer camp instead of being abandoned with nothing, made something inside me go cold and hard. I got out of the car. Derek popped the trunk, and I grabbed my backpack. Then he got back in the car, and they drove away. They did not wait to see if I got a ticket. They did not watch to make sure I was okay. They just drove away, and within seconds they were gone, and I was standing alone at a bus station with $60 and no plan. I was 18 years old, and I was completely on my own. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the parking lot, where their car had been. Part of me kept thinking they would come back, that this was some kind of test or a really cruel joke, that any second they would pull back in and laugh and say they were just trying to scare me straight or teach me a lesson. But they did not come back. Eventually, I went inside the station. It was dingy and depressing, with fluorescent lights that buzzed and cracked plastic chairs and a ticket counter behind plexiglass. I looked at the departure board. Buses were leaving for Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati, Chicago. All cities I had never been to. All cities where I knew no one. The ticket to Indianapolis was $32. That would leave me with $28 to my name. $28 to start a new life. I bought the ticket. The bus did not leave for 2 hours, so I sat in one of those plastic chairs and tried to figure out what I was going to do. I had no plan, no contacts, no safety net. I had never felt so alone in my entire life. I pulled out my phone and thought about calling someone. But who? My 3 friends from school were all leaving for college in the fall, living with their parents until then. I could not exactly ask to crash with them. I did not have any other family that I was close with. My grandparents on both sides had passed away. I had some aunts and uncles scattered around, but I barely knew them. I was truly alone. The bus ride to Indianapolis took about 2 hours. I spent that time staring out the window, watching Indiana farmland give way to suburbs, and then to the city. When we pulled into the Indianapolis bus station, it was early evening. I got off the bus and stood on the sidewalk with my backpack, looking around at this city I had never been to, and I felt fear unlike anything I had ever experienced. I had $28, no job, no place to stay, no idea what to do next. I started walking. I did not have a destination. I just walked. Eventually, I found myself in what looked like downtown. Tall buildings, busy streets, people everywhere. I saw a McDonald's and went inside. I bought a burger and fries for $4, which left me with $24. I ate slowly, trying to make it last, trying to think. I needed money. That meant I needed a job. But I needed an address to get a job. And I needed money to get an address. It was a vicious cycle. When I finished eating, I asked the manager if they were hiring. "You have any experience?" he asked, not really looking at me. "Not in fast food, but I am a hard worker. I just graduated high school." I will work any shift. I really need a job." He looked at me then, taking in my backpack, my desperate expression. "You new to the city?" "Yeah." "You got a place to stay?" "Not yet." He sighed. "Look, kid, I cannot hire you without an address and a phone number. And even if I could, we are not hiring right now. Sorry." I tried 3 more restaurants, 2 gas stations, a grocery store. Same story everywhere. No one was hiring, or they needed an address, or they needed experience, or they needed something I did not have. By the time it got dark, I was exhausted and scared and down to $18 because I had bought a bottle of water and a granola bar. I found a park bench and sat down, trying to figure out what to do. A homeless man shuffled by and looked at me. "First night?" he asked. "What?" "First night on the streets." "I can tell. You got that look. That I cannot believe this is happening to me look. I am not homeless," I said automatically. He laughed, but it was not mean. "Kid, you are sitting on a park bench at 9 o'clock at night with a backpack and a terrified expression. You are homeless. Sooner you accept it, sooner you can figure out how to survive it." He shuffled on, leaving me with that horrifying realization. I was homeless at 18 years old. On my high school graduation day, I was homeless. I did not sleep that night. I sat on that park bench, clutching my backpack, jumping at every sound, terrified someone would rob me or hurt me. When the sun came up, I had never been so relieved. That first week was the hardest week of my life. I spent my days walking around looking for jobs, and my nights trying to find safe places to sleep. I learned where the public library was, and I spent a lot of time there because it was air-conditioned and safe, and no one bothered me. I used their computers to search for jobs online. I used their bathroom to wash up as best I could. Every morning, I would wake up stiff and sore from sleeping on hard surfaces. My back ached constantly. My feet had blisters from walking everywhere in cheap shoes that were falling apart. I would go to the library bathroom and try to make myself presentable for job hunting. I would splash water on my face, try to fix my hair, brush my teeth with a toothbrush I had bought at a dollar store. I would look at myself in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. Hollow eyes, gaunt cheeks, the look of someone who was slowly disappearing. I applied for jobs everywhere. Fast food restaurants, retail stores, warehouses, anything and everything. But every application asked for an address and a phone number. When I tried to explain that I was in transition, that I was new to the city, they would look at me with suspicion. A few managers were kind enough to be honest with me. They would say things like, "Look, kid, even if I wanted to hire you, corporate requires an address for direct deposit. I cannot pay you cash. It is against policy." Or, "I cannot have someone working here who might not have access to a shower regularly. It is a health code issue." I understood their position, but it did not make the rejection any easier to swallow. I bought cheap food from dollar stores. Bread, peanut butter, bananas. Things that would fill me up without costing much. I rationed every penny. I would eat half a sandwich in the morning and save the other half for dinner. I would drink water from public fountains until my stomach felt full enough to quiet the hunger pangs. I learned which gas stations would let you use the bathroom without buying anything, and which ones would kick you out. The nights were the worst. I was terrified constantly. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. I moved around a lot, never sleeping in the same place 2 nights in a row, thinking that would keep me safer. Some nights, I slept in the doorways of closed businesses. Some nights, I found benches in parks that had enough light that I felt somewhat protected. Some nights, I just walked all night because I was too afraid to close my eyes. I thought about my family during those long, dark nights. I wondered if they were thinking about me at all, if they felt any guilt, if they ever lay awake at night wondering if I was okay. I imagined scenarios where they regretted what they did and came looking for me. I would picture my dad pulling up in his truck, apologizing, telling me it was all a mistake and that I could come home. But that never happened. They never came. They never called. I was truly alone. On day 4, my phone died and I did not have anywhere to charge it. I tried to charge it at the library, but they had signs saying the outlets were for library equipment only. I asked anyway, and a sympathetic librarian let me charge it for an hour. But that hour of charge only lasted a few more hours of use, and then it died again. After that, I gave up. What was the point of having a charged phone when no one was going to call me anyway? On day 6, my money ran out completely. I had been so careful, so frugal, but $60 can only stretch so far. I spent the last $1.17 on a package of crackers from a dollar store. I ate 3 crackers an hour to make them last as long as possible. On day 7, I did not eat at all. My stomach cramped and growled, but there was nothing I could do about it. I drank water until I felt sick from it, trying to trick my body into thinking it was full. On day 8, I was so hungry and weak that I could barely stand. I sat on a curb outside a construction site, watching the workers on their lunch break, eating sandwiches and drinking sodas, and I felt such intense envy and desperation that I almost started crying. I was seriously considering going through a dumpster to look for food. I had reached that point, rock bottom, the place where survival instinct overrides pride and dignity. That was when I met Marcus. Marcus was a supervisor at a construction site I walked past. I had been standing across the street, watching the workers, remembering my dad doing similar work, when Marcus came over. "You looking for work?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I said immediately. "Any work. I will do anything." "You look like you are about to fall over. When did you last eat?" "Yesterday, I think. Maybe the day before." He studied me for a moment, then said, "Come with me." He took me to a nearby diner and bought me breakfast. A real breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast, hash browns, orange juice. I tried not to eat too fast, but I was so hungry I could not help it. "What is your story, kid?" Marcus asked while I ate. I told him everything. My family kicking me out. The $60. The last 8 days of trying and failing to find work. All of it came pouring out. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I am going to help you, but you have to promise me something." "Anything." "You have to promise that you are going to work harder than you have ever worked in your life. You are going to show up every day. You are going to learn. You are going to prove to me that you are worth the risk I am about to take on you. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir. I promise." "Okay, here is what we are going to do. I have a friend who owns a rooming house. It is not fancy, but it is clean and safe. I will cover your first month's rent. You are going to work for me doing general labor on construction sites. I will pay you under the table until you can get a bank account and proper ID. You are going to work, save your money, and get yourself on your feet." "Understood." I could not speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face. Marcus became my guardian angel. He set me up in a small room in a boarding house on the east side of Indianapolis. It was tiny, barely bigger than a closet, with just a bed and a dresser and a shared bathroom down the hall. But it was mine. It was safe. It was shelter. That first night in an actual bed, I cried. I cried from relief, from gratitude, from the sheer, overwhelming emotion of being inside with a locked door and a roof over my head. I had gone from thinking I might actually die on the streets to having a room and a job in the span of a few hours. It felt like a miracle. He gave me work on his construction crews. Hard work, backbreaking work, carrying supplies, cleaning sites, doing whatever grunt work needed doing. I worked 10 to 12-hour days, 6 days a week. I was covered in bruises and blisters. My muscles screamed, but I did not complain. I did not miss a single day. I worked like my life depended on it, because it did. The first few weeks were brutal. My body was not used to physical labor of that intensity. I would come home and collapse on my bed, too tired to even take off my work boots. My hands were raw and bleeding from handling rough materials. My shoulders and back ached from lifting and carrying. I lost weight at first because I was burning so many calories, and I had to learn to eat enough to fuel the work I was doing. But I kept showing up. Every single day. I was there before anyone else, and I left after everyone else. Marcus noticed. He started teaching me things beyond just grunt work. He would explain why we were doing things a certain way. He would show me how to read blueprints. He would let me help the skilled workers and learn from them. He treated me like I had potential, like I was worth investing in. Marcus paid me cash every week, $250. It was not much, but it was everything to me. I paid Marcus back for the first month's rent within the first month. I bought work boots and work gloves and proper work clothes. I bought food and kept my tiny room stocked with groceries. I saved every penny I could. I opened a notebook and tracked every dollar I earned and every dollar I spent. I had never been good with money before because I had never had any money to manage, but now I learned. I had to learn. After 3 months, Marcus helped me get a bank account. He taught me about budgeting and saving. He taught me about building credit. He treated me like the son I was certain my own father had never really seen me as. We would have lunch together on job sites, and he would tell me about the construction business, about how to bid on projects, about managing workers, about quality control, about building a reputation. He was grooming me, though I did not realize it at the time. He was preparing me for something bigger. One Saturday, about 6 months after he hired me, Marcus took me to a bookstore and bought me 3 books about business management and entrepreneurship. Read these, he told me. If you want to have your own company someday, you need to understand more than just how to swing a hammer. You need to understand how business works. I read those books cover to cover, taking notes, highlighting passages. I started seeing construction not just as physical work, but as a business. I started understanding profit margins and overhead costs and cash flow. Marcus would quiz me sometimes, asking me questions about what I had read, challenging me to think differently about the work we were doing. Why are we doing this job? He asked me once when we were working on a kitchen renovation. Because the client hired us. I said, that is the obvious answer. But why did they hire us instead of one of the 10 other contractors who probably bid on this job? I thought about it. Because we do good work? Partly, but mostly because I have a reputation for finishing on time and on budget. That is what clients really want. They want to know that when I say it will take 3 weeks and cost $15,000, it will actually take 3 weeks and cost $15,000. Reliability is worth more than anything else in this business. Remember that. I remembered everything he taught me. I soaked it up like a sponge, hungry for knowledge, desperate to prove that his faith in me was not misplaced. Why are you helping me? I asked him one day during a lunch break. Because someone helped me once, he said. When I was 22, I was in a bad spot. Made some stupid choices. Got involved with the wrong people. I was about to go down a very dark path when a man named Robert gave me a chance. He gave me a job, taught me the construction business, and showed me that I could be more than what I thought I was. He saved my life, and he told me that someday, when I was in a position to help someone else, I should do it. So that is what I am doing. I am paying it forward. I do not know how to thank you. Thank me by making something of yourself. Thank me by being the person your family, did not believe you could be." I took those words to heart. Over the next year, I worked my ass off. I learned everything I could about construction. I went from general labor to helping the skilled workers. I would watch the framers and ask questions. I would shadow the electricians and learn how wiring worked. I would spend my lunch breaks reading construction manuals and code books. I learned framing, roofing, electrical work, plumbing, drywall, finish carpentry. I was a sponge, soaking up every bit of knowledge anyone would share with me. The construction workers I worked alongside were a mix of characters. Some were career tradesmen who had been swinging hammers for 20 years. Some were immigrants chasing the American dream, just like I was, working harder than anyone I had ever seen. Some were guys down on their luck, trying to get back on their feet after setbacks. I learned something from all of them. There was Jose, a master carpenter from Mexico who could build anything with his hands. He taught me that precision matters, that taking an extra 5 minutes to get something exactly right will save you hours of fixing it later. There was Mike, an electrician who had been in the trade for 30 years. He taught me that electrical work is like a puzzle, that you have to think 3 steps ahead. There was Tyrone, a roofer who could work in 100-degree heat without breaking a sweat. He taught me that mental toughness is just as important as physical strength. These men became my teachers, my friends, my surrogate family. They would invite me to backyard barbecues on Sundays. They would let me crash on their couches when I was too tired to make it back to my room. They would share their lunches with me when they noticed I was not eating enough. They looked out for me in a way my own family never had. I also enrolled in night classes at the community college using the money I had saved. I was exhausted, working 60 hours a week and then going to class 3 nights a week, but I knew education was important. I took business courses, marketing, accounting, management, project management, business law. I learned how to read financial statements, how to create marketing plans, how to manage employees, how to understand contracts. My professors did not know my story. They did not know I was living in a boarding house and working construction all day. To them, I was just another student trying to better himself. But I appreciated their teaching in a way other students probably did not. Every lesson felt vital. Every concept felt like a tool I could use to build my future. I was working 60 to 70 hours a week between my job and school, sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, running on coffee and determination. There were days I was so tired I could barely function. Days I nodded off in class or on the job site during breaks. Days I wondered if I was pushing too hard, if I was going to burn out. But I kept going, because stopping meant going backward, and I could not go backward. I would not. By the time I was 20, I had my own small crew working under Marcus. 5 guys who reported to me, who looked to me for direction on job sites. It was my first real leadership role, and it terrified me. I was barely older than some of them. What did I know about leading people? But Marcus believed in me. "You have good instincts," he told me. "You work harder than anyone else. You care about quality. You treat people with respect. That is what makes a good leader. The rest you will learn." So I learned. I learned how to delegate tasks, how to give constructive feedback, how to motivate people on tough days, how to handle conflicts between workers, how to earn respect through consistent action rather than demanding it. I made mistakes, lots of them, but I learned from each one. I started making decent money by then. Marcus had been giving me raises every few months, recognizing my growth and contribution. I was making enough to move out of the boarding house and into a better apartment. Nothing fancy, just a small 1-bedroom in a safer neighborhood with my own bathroom and a kitchen. But it felt like a palace compared to that tiny room with the shared bathroom down the hall. I bought furniture from thrift stores and assembled it myself. I cooked real meals instead of just eating sandwiches and ramen. I had a television and a couch and a real bed instead of just a mattress on the floor. Small luxuries that most people took for granted felt miraculous to me. Every step up felt like a validation that I was doing something right, that I was building something sustainable. I also started saving seriously. I opened a separate savings account and automatically transferred 20% of every paycheck into it. I watched that number grow slowly. First $1,000, then $2,000, then $5,000. It was a safety net, a cushion, a promise to myself that I would never be that desperate again, never be one missed paycheck away from sleeping on a park bench. Marcus started talking about me potentially taking over some of his smaller projects, managing them start to finish, bidding the work, hiring the crew, executing the project, handling the client. It was a huge responsibility, and I was only 20 years old, but he trusted me, and I was determined not to let him down. My first solo project was a kitchen renovation for a young couple in a suburb outside Indianapolis. They had a modest budget of $12,000 and wanted new cabinets, countertops, appliances, and flooring. I bid the job carefully, calculating every material cost, every labor hour, building in a small profit margin. When I won the bid, I was thrilled and terrified in equal measure. The project had challenges. The flooring we ordered came in the wrong color. One of the guys on my crew called in sick for 3 days straight. We found water damage behind the old cabinets that had not been in the original scope. I had to navigate all of it, make decisions, solve problems, communicate with the clients, keep the project on track and on budget. There were nights I lay awake worrying. What if I messed up? What if I went over budget? What if the clients were unhappy? What if I failed and Marcus lost faith in me? But I did not fail. I finished the project on time and just slightly under budget. The clients were thrilled with the work. They left me a glowing review and referred me to 2 of their friends. That first successful solo project gave me confidence I had never had before. I could do this. I could manage projects. I could run crews. I could build a career in this industry. Over the next year, Marcus gave me more and more responsibility. Bigger projects, bigger budgets, more complex challenges. Each one taught me something new. Each one built my skills and my confidence. When I turned 21, Marcus called me into his office for a meeting. I thought maybe I was getting another raise or another project. Instead, he told me he wanted to help me start my own company. "You are ready," he said. "You have learned the trade. You have learned the business side. You have proven you can manage projects and people. It is time for you to build something of your own." "Marcus, I do not know if I am ready. I am only 21. I do not have the capital. I do not have the connections. I do not—" "Stop," he interrupted. "You are making excuses. You are ready, and I am going to help you. I will introduce you to my banker. I will co-sign on a small business loan to get you started. I will refer some of my smaller clients to you. I will mentor you through the first year. But this needs to be yours. Your company, your vision, your future." "Why?" I asked. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because Robert did it for me, and I am paying it forward. Because you deserve this chance. Because I believe in you. And because watching you succeed will be one of the great joys of my life." And that is how Sullivan Construction was born. At 21, I got my contractor's license. Marcus helped me start my own small construction company, Sullivan Construction. Just me and 2 guys I had worked with, taking on small renovation jobs. It was scary as hell, but Marcus believed in me. Starting the company meant taking out a small business loan, which terrified me. Going into debt when I had spent years clawing my way out of having nothing felt like tempting fate. But Marcus walked me through it. He helped me write a business plan. He introduced me to a banker he knew who was willing to take a chance on a 21-year-old with no credit history, but 3 years of solid work experience and glowing recommendations. The first year was rough. We barely broke even. I took every job I could get, no matter how small. Bathroom renovations, deck repairs, kitchen updates, basement finishing. I worked alongside my 2 employees, often putting in 16-hour days. I did the physical work, managed the scheduling, handled the billing, dealt with suppliers, everything. There were nights I collapsed into bed at midnight, only to wake up at 5 in the morning to do it all again. I learned hard lessons that first year. I learned that some clients would try to nickel and dime you. I learned that you needed to get everything in writing. I learned that managing employees was harder than doing the work yourself. I learned that cash flow was everything and that you could be profitable on paper, but broke in reality if clients did not pay on time. I made mistakes. I underbid jobs and lost money. I trusted the wrong people. I made poor hiring decisions. But I learned from every mistake, and I did not make the same mistake twice. But the second year was better. Word of mouth started to spread. Clients who were happy with our work recommended us to their friends and neighbors. We started getting bigger jobs, full home renovations, small commercial projects. I hired 2 more workers. I bought better tools and a work van with the company name printed on the side. Sullivan Construction was becoming a real business, not just a hustle. And the third year was better still. We had enough steady work that I could start being selective about which jobs we took. I could negotiate better rates because we had a reputation for quality work. I was able to hire a part-time bookkeeper to handle the administrative tasks I hated. I moved into a better apartment. I bought my first new car, nothing fancy, just a reliable Toyota truck. For the first time since being abandoned, I felt like I was not just surviving, I was actually building something. By the time I was 25, Sullivan Construction had 15 employees and was doing over $1 million a year in revenue. We had a small office space in an industrial park. We had 3 work crews that could handle multiple projects simultaneously. I had a project manager who handled day-to-day operations, which freed me up to focus on bidding new work and growing the business. I reinvested everything back into the business. Better equipment, better trucks, more skilled workers. I bid on bigger projects, commercial renovations, small commercial builds, strip mall updates, office building renovations. I developed a reputation for quality work done on time and on budget, just like Marcus had taught me. Clients knew that when Sullivan Construction took on a job, it would be done right. At 27, we landed a major project, a full renovation of a historic downtown building into luxury condos. It was a $10 million project, and somehow we won the bid. I found out later that we were competing against firms that had been in business for decades, but our proposal was more detailed, our timeline was more realistic, and our references were impeccable. That project put us on the map. Suddenly we were getting calls from developers all over the city. The big players who had never given us a second look were now wanting to partner with us. That project was also the hardest thing I had ever done professionally. It lasted 18 months. There were setbacks and challenges and moments where I was not sure we would finish on time or on budget. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I had bitten off more than I could chew. But we did it. We finished 2 weeks early and came in under budget. The developer was thrilled. The building won awards for historic preservation and design, and Sullivan Construction became a name that meant something in Indianapolis construction circles. By the time I was 30, Sullivan Construction was one of the fastest-growing construction companies in Indianapolis. We had over 100 employees. We were doing $30 million a year in revenue. I had gone from a homeless teenager with $60 to a successful business owner worth several $1,000,000. But in all those years, I never once contacted my family. I thought about them sometimes, wondered if they ever regretted what they did, wondered if Melissa was okay, if she had graduated, what she was doing with her life. But I never reached out. They had made it clear I was not part of their family anymore. So I moved on. I built a new life without them. Until the invitation arrived. It came to my office on a random Tuesday afternoon. My assistant brought in the mail, and there it was, a fancy envelope addressed to James Sullivan. Inside was an invitation to the Sullivan family reunion. Apparently, it was a tradition I had never known about because I had never been invited before. A big gathering of the extended Sullivan family held every 5 years at Uncle Tom's farm back in Indiana. The invitation was generic, clearly sent to every Sullivan in the extended family database. It probably went out to 100 people, and I doubt whoever sent it realized they were inviting the son who had been abandoned 13 years ago. I stared at that invitation for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it away and forget about it. What did I care about a family reunion? These people had thrown me away like garbage. Why would I want to see them? But another part of me, a darker part, wanted them to see what I had become, wanted them to know that I had not just survived without them. I had thrived. I had built an empire. I had become successful beyond anything they probably ever imagined for me. I made a decision. I was going to that reunion, and I was going to make sure they knew exactly who I was and what they had thrown away. The reunion was scheduled for the first Saturday in June, almost exactly 13 years to the day after they had abandoned me. I made plans, detailed plans. This was not going to be a casual drop-in. This was going to be a statement. I rented a stretch limousine, black, sleek, the kind celebrities use. The rental company asked if it was for a wedding or prom, and I said no, it was for a family reunion. The woman on the phone laughed, probably thinking I was joking. I was not joking. I bought a custom-tailored suit from an Italian menswear shop downtown. The tailor spent an hour taking measurements, discussing fabric options, asking about the occasion. I told him I wanted to look like undeniable success. He smiled and said he understood completely. 2 weeks later, the suit was ready. Charcoal gray, perfectly fitted, with a crisp white shirt and a burgundy tie. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the person staring back. I looked like money. I looked like power. I looked like someone who mattered. I got a haircut at an expensive salon, the kind where they give you a scotch while you wait, and the stylist spends 45 minutes on what used to take a barber 10 minutes. I bought a Rolex, not because I needed it. I had a perfectly good watch, but because I wanted that flash of gold on my wrist. I wanted there to be no question that I had made it. I bought new shoes, Italian leather, that cost more than the first car I had purchased. I bought designer sunglasses. I bought a leather briefcase, even though I had no intention of bringing work materials. It was all props, all pieces of the costume I was constructing. The night before the reunion, I barely slept. I lay in my bed in my expensive apartment, looking at the ceiling, wondering if I was making a mistake. Part of me knew this was petty. Part of me knew that showing up just to flaunt my success was not going to heal anything or change anything. But another part of me, the part that still remembered being 18 and terrified and abandoned, needed them to see, needed them to know, needed them to understand what they had thrown away. The morning of the reunion, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror for a long time, just looking at myself. The suit, the watch, the haircut. I looked successful. I looked confident. But inside, I felt like that scared 18-year-old kid. I realized then that no amount of money or success could erase that feeling completely. The wound they left was still there, just covered up with expensive clothes and business achievements. But I was going anyway. The drive from Indianapolis back to rural Indiana took about 2 hours. I sat in the back of the limo, sipping expensive scotch from my home bar that I had brought along, watching the landscape change from city to suburbs to farmland. The driver, a professional guy in his 50s named Robert, tried to make small talk at first, but eventually picked up on the fact that I was not in a chatty mood. He put up the privacy divider and let me sit with my thoughts. I watched familiar landmarks pass by. The exit for the town where I had gone to high school, the water tower I had climbed once on a dare, the billboard for the same hardware store that had been there since I was a kid. This was my home region, but it did not feel like home anymore. It felt like a place I used to know in another life. As we got closer to Uncle Tom's farm, my heart started racing. My palms were sweaty. I felt like I might throw up. This was really happening. After 13 years of silence, I was about to walk back into my family's life, and they had no idea I was coming. I took out my phone and looked at the invitation one more time. Sullivan Family Reunion. All family welcome. All family. I wondered if they had any idea that included the son they had abandoned. I wondered if anyone had thought about me when they were planning this event. Probably not. I had been erased from their family narrative. I was the son who left. The son who could not handle being an adult. That was probably how they told the story to themselves. That made it easier for them to justify what they did. Well, I was about to rewrite that story. I poured myself another scotch, drank it in one swallow, and watched as we turned onto the long gravel driveway leading to Uncle Tom's farm. This was it. No turning back now. I was going back to where it all started, but I was not the same person who had left. When we pulled up to Uncle Tom's farm, the reunion was in full swing. There were probably 60 or 70 people there. Kids running around, adults standing in clusters, talking and laughing. Tables set up with food, a banner that said Sullivan Family Reunion 2024. The limo pulled up and people started to notice. A black stretch limo was not a common sight at a family reunion in rural Indiana. People were pointing, curious about who was arriving in such style. The driver came around and opened my door. I stepped out and I could feel all eyes on me. I was wearing my tailored suit, my Rolex catching the sunlight. I looked like money. I looked like success. I walked toward the main gathering area, and I could hear the murmurs starting. Who is that? I do not know. Do you recognize him? Maybe he is with the Johnson side of the family? I scanned the crowd, looking for my immediate family. I spotted my father first. He had aged. More gray hair. More weight around his middle. He was standing with a beer in his hand, talking to some cousin I barely remembered. Then I saw my mother. She was at one of the food tables, arranging dishes. She looked older too, tired. She had not aged well. Derek was there with a woman who must have been his wife, and 2 small children. Melissa was there too. She was 28 now, a grown woman. She was talking to some other young adults, laughing at something. None of them looked in my direction. They did not recognize me. I walked closer, and Uncle Tom, the host, approached me with a friendly but confused smile. "Hello there. I am Tom Sullivan. Welcome to the reunion. I do not believe we have met. Are you a Sullivan?" "I am," I said. "James Sullivan." His face went blank. He was trying to place the name. "Richard and Patricia's son," I added. His eyes widened. "James? Little James? But you look so different. We heard you went out on your own after high school. I did not realize you were doing so well." "I am doing very well," I said evenly. "Where are my parents?" "Oh, Richard is over there by the barn. Patricia is at the food table. Let me take you over. I can find them. Thank you." I walked toward my mother first. She was fussing with some potato salad, her back to me. I stopped a few feet away. "Hello, Patricia," I said. She turned around, and her face registered polite confusion. "Hello. I am sorry, do I know you?" "You should. You gave birth to me." It took a moment. Then her face went white. Her hand flew to her mouth. "James. In the flesh." "Oh my God. James. You look so different. I did not recognize you. You look so successful." I offered. "Wealthy. Like I did not end up homeless and hopeless like you probably assumed." We did not assume. We always hoped you were okay." Did you? Did you really hope that? Or did you just never think about me at all once I was no longer your problem?" People around us were starting to notice the tension. Conversations were stopping. My father had spotted us and was walking over, looking confused. "Patricia? What is going on? Who is this?" "Richard," I said, turning to face him. "Hello, Dad." The recognition hit him slowly. I watched it dawn in his eyes. Disbelief, then shock, then something that might have been shame. "James, is that really you?" "It is really me. Surprised I am alive? Or just surprised I am not in prison or dead in a ditch somewhere?" "That is not fair," Mom said, her voice shaking. "We never wanted anything bad for you. We could not afford." "You could not afford to keep your son. I know. You made that very clear. $60 and good luck, right? That was the send-off. So I am here to show you what I did with that investment." "You look like you have done well for yourself," Dad said, and there was something careful in his voice. Like he was not sure if I was there to cause a scene. "I have done incredibly well. I own a construction company, Sullivan Construction. Maybe you have heard of it. We do about $30 million a year in revenue. I have over 100 employees. I own a house in the nicest part of Indianapolis. I drive a car that costs more than you probably make in 2 years. That limo out there, I rented it just for today, just so you could see exactly what your throwaway son became." A crowd had gathered now, extended family members listening to this conversation. Derek had noticed and was walking over, his face confused. Melissa was behind him, and when she saw me, she stopped dead in her tracks. Her hand went to her mouth, and I saw tears spring to her eyes. "James," Derek said. "Holy shit, is that really you?" "Hello, Derek. Nice to see you are still alive. Still living with Mom and Dad. Or did you finally get your own place?" His face flushed. "I have my own place now. I am married. Have kids." "Good for you. Glad you got to have a normal life. With family support, unlike some people." "James, if this is about what happened after graduation," Dad started. "What happened?" I interrupted, my voice hard. "You mean when you abandoned your 18-year-old son at a bus station with $60 and no plan? When you drove away and never looked back? When you did not call or check on me or care if I lived or died? Is that what you are referring to?" "We did what we thought was best," Mom said, and she was crying now. "We were struggling. We could not afford to support everyone. We made a hard choice. You made a choice to throw me away like I was garbage. Like I did not matter. Like 18 years of being your son meant absolutely nothing." "That is not true," Dad said, raising his voice now. "We did care. We talked about you. We wondered how you were doing." "Wondered, but never cared enough to actually find out? Never cared enough to call, to write, to make sure I was not dead?" My voice was getting louder now, and I did not care that people were staring. Let them stare. Let them hear this. We thought you would reach out when you were ready," Mom said. "We thought you needed space to become independent." "Independent?" I laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "You thought leaving an 18-year-old at a bus station with $60 was giving me space to become independent? That is not independence, Mom. That is abandonment. There is a difference. We gave you a start, Dad said, but his voice was weak now. We gave you what we could afford. You gave me nothing. Nothing but trauma and fear, and the absolute certainty that I was not worth loving. Do you know what that does to a person? Do you have any idea what it feels like to know that your own parents decided you were disposable? James, please. Mom was sobbing openly now, reaching for me. We were struggling. We were desperate. We made a terrible choice. We know that now. We have regretted it every day since. Every day since. I stepped back from her reaching hand. Really? Then, why did not you come looking for me? Why did not you try to find me? You had my phone number until it died. You could have called. You could have sent letters to the high school asking them to forward them. You could have filed a missing person report if you were really worried. But you did nothing. You did not regret it enough to actually do anything about it. We did not know how, Dad said. We did not know where you went. We did not know if you wanted to be found. That is a convenient excuse for not trying. The truth is, you were relieved I was gone. One less mouth to feed. One less expense. One less reminder of your failures as parents. That is not fair. Derek stepped forward now, getting in my face. Do not talk to our parents like that. You do not know what it was like after you left. Mom cried for months. Dad barely functioned. They felt terrible about what they did. Then where were the phone calls, Derek? Where were the apologies? Where was the effort to make it right? Feeling bad is not the same as taking action. Guilt is not the same as accountability. You could have called us too. Derek shot back. You could have reached out. Communication is a two-way street. I was the child. I shouted. I was the one who got abandoned. It was not my responsibility to fix what they broke. It was theirs, and they chose not to. They chose to just move on and pretend I did not exist. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the children had stopped playing. Every eye was on our family drama, unfolding in the middle of this reunion. James, please, Mom said again. Please do not do this. Let us talk privately. Let us try to explain. Let us try to fix this. Fix this, I said. You cannot fix this. You cannot undo 13 years of abandonment. You cannot take back the nights I slept on park benches. You cannot erase the week I went without eating. You cannot make up for the terror I felt every single day that I might not survive. You cannot give me back the years of my life where I should have had family support, but instead had nothing. The crowd was dead silent now. Even the kids had stopped playing and were watching with curious eyes. If it was not for a man named Marcus, I continued, I would probably be dead. He found me on day 8, when I was about to pass out from hunger. He fed me. He gave me shelter. He gave me work. He taught me a trade. He believed in me when my own parents did not. He did what a father should do. He raised me into the man I am today. Not you. Him. Dad had gone pale. Mom was openly sobbing now. So no, I said. I am not here to reconcile. I am not here to have a heartwarming family reunion. I am here to show you what you threw away. I am here to let you see the success you will never be a part of. I am here to give you the same goodbye you gave me. Except my goodbye comes with a little more style. I pulled out my wallet and took out 3 $20 bills. I walked over to my father and held them out. Here, $60. Same amount you gave me. Consider us even. You do not owe me anything. I do not owe you anything. We are strangers now, and that is all we are ever going to be. He did not take the money. He just stared at me, and something like regret flashed across his face. James, please, he said quietly. Do not do this. You are our son. We made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But that does not mean we cannot fix this. That does not mean we cannot try to be a family again. You are 13 years too late, I said. I do not need a family. I built one. Friends who are closer than any blood relation. Marcus. who is more of a father to you than you ever were. I have people who love me, support me, believe in me. I do not need you." I turned to walk away, and that was when Melissa ran up to me. "James, wait." She was crying, reaching for my arm. "Please do not go. Please. I am so sorry. I am so sorry for what they did. I tried to stop them. I tried to tell them it was wrong. But I was just a kid. I did not have any power. But I never forgot you. I never stopped thinking about you." I looked down at my little sister. She was not little anymore. She was a grown woman. But her eyes were the same. Kind. Genuine. "Did you try to find me?" I asked her. "Yes. God, yes. I looked for you on social media. I tried to Google you. I asked Mom and Dad if they had any way to contact you, but they said they did not. I wanted to find you so badly. I wanted to know if you were okay. And when you could not find me, what did you do?" I did not know what else to do. I was just a teenager. I did not have the resources or the knowledge to do a real search. But I never stopped thinking about you. Did you ever stand up to them? Did you ever tell Mom and Dad that what they did was unforgivable? She looked down. I did. When I turned 18, I confronted them. I told them they were wrong, that they had destroyed our family. We fought about it for years. I even stopped talking to them for a while. But you are here now. You are back in their lives. Because they are my parents, James. And I love them, even when they make horrible choices. But that does not mean I do not understand how much they hurt you. That does not mean I do not think you have every right to hate them. If you never want to see them again, I get it. I really do. But please, do not cut me out too. I am your sister. I have always been your sister. And I have missed you every single day for 13 years. I looked at her, at the genuine pain in her eyes, and I felt my anger soften slightly. Melissa had been 15 when they kicked me out. She had been a child. She could not have stopped them. And she had tried to find me. She had stood up to them. "I will think about it," I said. "But I am not making any promises. That is all I am asking. Please, just think about it. And if you ever want to reach out, I will give you my number. I will always answer. Always." She wrote her number on a napkin and pressed it into my hand. Then she hugged me, and I let her, even though I was not ready to hug back. I walked back to the limo, aware that every single person at that reunion was watching me. I got in, and as the driver pulled away, I looked back at the crowd. My parents were standing together, Mom leaning into Dad, both of them looking broken. Derek was watching with an unreadable expression. Melissa was still crying, waving at me, and I felt nothing, not triumph, not satisfaction, not even anger anymore, just nothing. The drive back to Indianapolis was quiet. I had accomplished what I set out to do. I had shown them what they had thrown away. I had made my statement, but I did not feel the sense of victory I thought I would. I just felt empty. Over the next few weeks, I tried to go back to my normal life. Work consumed me as always, but I kept thinking about that reunion, about the look on my parents' faces, about Melissa's tears, about the strange hollowness I felt after all of it. I threw myself into work with even more intensity than usual. We had 3 major projects running simultaneously, and I made sure to visit each site daily, checking on progress, talking to the workers, solving problems. My project manager started commenting that I seemed more stressed than usual, more present on the job sites than I had been in years. He was right. I was using work to avoid thinking about everything else. But at night, alone in my expensive apartment with its high-end furniture and its view of the city skyline, I could not escape the thoughts. I would pour myself a drink and sit by the window, looking out at Indianapolis all lit up, and I would replay that reunion in my head over and over. The shock on my mother's face when she realized who I was, the shame in my father's eyes, Derek's defensive anger. Melissa's desperate plea for me not to cut her out of my life. I had wanted them to feel bad. I had wanted them to see what they lost. I had accomplished that. But it did not feel the way I thought it would. It felt empty, hollow, like winning a fight, but realizing the victory cost you something important. Marcus noticed I was off. We met for dinner one night at a steakhouse downtown, and he asked me what was going on. Marcus had become more than a mentor over the years. He was family, the father figure I never really had. He was in his early 60s now, semi-retired, spending more time with his grandkids than on job sites. But we still met regularly, still talked about business and life, and everything in between. I told him about the reunion, about going back, about confronting my parents. All of it. He listened without interrupting, the way he always did, letting me get it all out before responding. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long time. He took a sip of his bourbon, set the glass down carefully, and looked at me with those wise, weathered eyes that had seen so much in his 60-plus years. "Do you feel better now that you did that?" he finally asked. "I do not know. I thought I would. I thought seeing them squirm, seeing them realize what they threw away, would give me some kind of satisfaction, some kind of closure. But it did not. I just feel empty. That is because revenge is not satisfying, James. It feels like it should be. It feels like making them see what they lost should fill the hole they left. But it does not, because the hole was not about them seeing your success. The hole was about them not loving you enough to keep you." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. He was right. Of course he was right. So what am I supposed to do? Just forgive them? Pretend like what they did was okay? I asked, and I could hear the frustration in my own voice. No, what they did was not okay. It was cruel and selfish and unforgivable. Abandoning a child, even an 18-year-old child, is one of the worst things a parent can do. There is no excuse for it, no justification that makes it acceptable, and you do not have to forgive them. You do not have to pretend it was okay. You do not have to have a relationship with them if you do not want to. Then, what are you saying? I am saying that holding on to anger is not going to heal you either. You do not have to forgive them, but you do have to let go of the need for them to feel bad about what they did. Because whether they feel bad or not does not change anything for you. Your success does not depend on their acknowledgement. Your worth does not depend on their validation. Your happiness does not require their remorse. Then what will make me feel better? What will fill the hole? Marcus leaned forward, his expression serious. Accepting that you are enough on your own, that you do not need their validation or their remorse or their recognition of your success. You are successful because you worked hard and had the courage to survive when they threw you away. That is yours. It does not belong to them, and it does not need their acknowledgement to be real. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, I still feel like something is missing. Of course you do. They were your parents. They were supposed to love you unconditionally. They were supposed to protect you and support you and help you become who you were meant to be. And they failed. They failed catastrophically. And no amount of success or money or revenge is going to change that failure. Nothing can give you back the childhood you deserved, the parents you deserved, the family support you deserved. That is a loss you have to grieve. I thought I had grieved it. I thought I was over it. You grieved the physical loss of them when you were 18, but I do not think you have grieved the deeper loss. The loss of what they should have been, but never were. The loss of the idea of parents who love you. That is a different kind of grief, and it does not go away just because you become successful. We sat in silence for a while, both of us lost in our own thoughts. The restaurant bustled around us, people laughing and talking and enjoying their meals, completely unaware of the heavy conversation happening at our table. "You know what I think," Marcus said eventually. "I think you need to decide what kind of man you want to be, not in reaction to what they did, not in spite of them, but independent of them entirely. Who is James Sullivan when his parents' abandonment is not the defining story of his life? Who is he when he is not proving something to people who will never be able to give him what he needs? I do not know, I admitted. I have been so focused on surviving, and then on building the business, and then on becoming successful enough that they would regret what they did. I have never really thought about who I am outside of that narrative. Then, maybe that is your next project. Not a construction project. A life project. Figure out who James Sullivan is when he is not the kid who was abandoned. Figure out what makes you happy beyond professional success. Figure out what kind of relationships you want, what kind of legacy you want to leave, what kind of life you want to build. That sounds harder than building a skyscraper. Marcus laughed. It is, but it is also more important, because you can build 100 buildings and make $100 million, but if you do not know who you are and what you want, you will still feel empty. Success without meaning is just noise. I sat with that for a long time. Success without meaning is just noise. That resonated with something deep inside me. Because he was right. I had achieved everything I set out to achieve. I had survived. I had thrived. I had built a successful company. I had made money. I had proved everyone wrong who doubted me. But I was still searching for something. Still feeling like something was missing. How did you figure it out? I asked him. Who you were, what you wanted. Honestly, I almost did not. I went down some really dark paths in my 20s, made some terrible choices. It was not until Robert gave me a chance and showed me that I was worth investing in that I started to understand. And even then, it took years. Years of therapy. Years of working on myself. Years of learning to separate who I was from what had been done to me. It is not a destination, James. It is a process. And it is messy and painful, and you will backslide and make mistakes. But it is worth it. Did you ever reconcile with the people who hurt you? Some of them, not all. I learned that some relationships are toxic, even if they are family. I learned that blood does not obligate you to accept mistreatment, but I also learned that forgiveness is more for you than for them. Forgiveness does not mean what they did was okay. It means you are no longer going to let what they did control your life. I do not know if I can forgive them. Then do not. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But do not let your anger at them become your identity. Do not let their failure define your success. You are so much more than what they did to you. A few days later, I called Melissa. My hand shook as I dialed her number. I had rehearsed what I was going to say a dozen times, but as the phone rang, all my prepared words disappeared. Hello. Her voice was cautious, probably because she did not recognize the number. Melissa, it is James. There was a sharp intake of breath. James. Oh my God. You called. I did not think you would actually call. I almost did not. But you did. You did. She sounded like she was crying already. Thank you. Thank you for calling. I have been thinking about what you said at the reunion. About wanting to know me. About being my sister. Yes. Yes, I meant all of it. Every word. I want to try. I want to see if we can have a relationship. But I need you to understand something. This is not about forgiving Mom and Dad. This is not me opening the door to reconciling with the whole family. This is just about you and me. Can you accept that? Absolutely. Whatever you need. Whatever boundaries you want to set. I just want to know my brother again. We talked for 3 hours that first phone call. She told me about her life. About studying to be a teacher, something I had not known. About graduating from college with a degree in elementary education. About her first teaching job at a school in a low-income neighborhood because she wanted to help kids who came from difficult backgrounds. About how she thought about me every time she saw a student who was struggling, wondering if they had anyone at home who believed in them. I became a teacher because of you, she said at one point. What do you mean? because you did not have anyone who believed in you when you needed it most. And I kept thinking about all the kids out there who are in similar situations, who are overlooked or undervalued or written off. And I wanted to be the person who sees them, who believes in them, who tells them they matter. I wanted to be for them what no one was for you. That hit me harder than I expected. My little sister had built her career around trying to make up for what happened to me, around trying to prevent other kids from feeling the way I felt. That is beautiful, Mel. Really beautiful. It does not make up for what happened to you, but it is something. It is my way of trying to create meaning out of something horrible. She told me about her dating life, which was apparently a disaster. A string of bad relationships with men who did not appreciate her or treat her right. She joked that maybe she had trust issues because of watching what her parents did to me, and we both laughed, but there was truth in that joke. I told her about my life too, about Marcus and how he saved me, about building the company from nothing, about the long hours and the setbacks and the victories, about learning to trust people again after being abandoned, about the walls I had built around myself to protect against ever being hurt like that again. Do you have anyone? A girlfriend? A partner? She asked. I dated some. Nothing serious. I think Marcus is right that I have never really dealt with the abandonment, so I keep people at arm's length. I do not let anyone get too close. That makes sense. But James, you deserve love. You deserve someone who sees all of you and chooses you anyway. Maybe. Someday. Right now, I am just focused on the business. The business will not keep you warm at night. Trust me, I know. I have thrown myself into work too, but it is not the same as human connection. We started meeting for coffee once a month after that first phone call, then twice a month, then every week. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt a relationship. It was strange at first, like getting to know a stranger who happened to share your DNA. She was not the 15-year-old kid I remembered. She was a 28-year-old woman with her own life and her own perspectives and her own experiences. But as we spent more time together, I started to see the parts of her that had not changed. She was still kind, still thoughtful, still someone who cared deeply about other people. And she genuinely wanted to know me. She asked questions about my life, my work, my thoughts on things. She listened when I talked. She remembered details from previous conversations. She showed up. She told me more about the family too, about how Mom and Dad had struggled financially even after I left. Apparently, getting rid of one expense had not magically solved their money problems. They still fought about bills. They still worried about foreclosure. They still resented Uncle James with his surgeon money and his perfect life. Nothing had really changed for them except they had one less son. Derek is a good dad, she told me one day over coffee. He really is. His kids are sweet, but he is also kind of selfish, kind of oblivious. He does not see beyond his own little bubble. I do not think he has ever really thought deeply about what happened to you. He just accepts Mom and Dad's version of events, that they were doing what they had to do and that you chose to cut them off. That is convenient for him. It is. It lets him not have to grapple with the uncomfortable truth that our parents are capable of doing terrible things. It is easier to blame you for being unforgiving than to blame them for being unforgivable. Do you talk to him about it? Sometimes. It usually ends in an argument. He gets defensive, says I am too hard on Mom and Dad, says I do not understand how hard things were for them, says I need to let it go and move on, but I cannot let it go, because what they did was wrong, and pretending it was not wrong is just perpetuating the damage. I appreciated that Melissa saw things clearly, that she did not make excuses for them, that she held them accountable even while maintaining a relationship with them. It could not have been easy walking that line. She also told me about how she had struggled emotionally after I left. How she had gone through a depression in her late teens. How she had felt guilty for staying when I had been forced to leave. How she had felt like maybe she should have refused to stay, should have left with me in solidarity. She went to therapy for years to work through all of it. My therapist helped me understand that I was a child when it happened, that I could not have changed the outcome. But it is one thing to understand that intellectually, and another thing to feel it emotionally. I still carry guilt, even though I know logically it was not my fault. It was not your fault, Mel. You were 15. You had no power to stop them. I know, but knowing and feeling are two different things. As the months went on, Melissa became a genuine friend, not just a sister I was obligated to have a relationship with. We texted regularly. Funny memes, articles we thought the other would find interesting, updates about our days. She introduced me to her friends, and I introduced her to my work colleagues. She came to my apartment and cooked dinner. I went to her place and helped her assemble furniture from IKEA. We developed inside jokes and shared references. We built something real. One night, about 6 months into rebuilding our relationship, she asked me the question I had been expecting. Have you thought any more about Mom and Dad? About maybe talking to them? We were at her apartment, eating pizza, and watching a movie. I had been relaxed and happy up until that moment, and then I felt all my defenses go up. I admitted, but I am not ready. I am not pushing you. I promise I am not. I just want to give you an update on them, if you want to hear it. Okay. They are in therapy, both individual and couples therapy. Mom started right after the reunion. She said seeing you again, seeing how successful you are, seeing how much you clearly did not need them, it broke something open in her. She realized that she has spent her whole life obsessed with money and status, and keeping up appearances, and it cost her her son. She has been working with a therapist on understanding why she prioritizes those things, where that came from, how to change. That is good for her, I guess. Dad joined therapy a few months later. He has always been resistant to anything that feels like emotional vulnerability, but he went because Mom asked him to, and apparently it has been helping. He has started to understand how his own father's emotional unavailability shaped how he parents, how he never learned to express love in healthy ways. Melissa, I appreciate you telling me this, but them being in therapy does not erase what they did. I know that. I am not saying it does. I am just saying they are trying. They are actually putting in work to understand themselves and change. And they talk about you. They ask about you. They want to know if you are okay. If they want to know if I am okay, they can call me themselves. They have your number. They can ask you for mine. They do not think you want to hear from them. They think you would hang up or block them. They are probably right. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think they are afraid. I think they know they do not deserve your forgiveness. They know they cannot undo what they did. And I think they are terrified that any attempt to reach out will just hurt you more or make you more angry. So they are waiting for what? For me to reach out to them. I think so. I think they are putting the ball in your court because they feel like they have forfeited their right to ask anything of you. That is probably the smartest thing they have done in 13 years. We dropped the subject after that, and I appreciated that Melissa did not push. She had given me the information and left it up to me to decide what to do with it. But the information stayed with me. The idea that my parents were in therapy, actually working on themselves, actually trying to understand their failures, it changed something. Not everything. Not enough to make me want to reconcile immediately, but enough to make me think that maybe someday it might be possible to have some kind of conversation with them. It has been about a year now since that reunion. My business continues to grow in ways I never imagined possible. Sullivan Construction just landed the biggest contract in our history, a $30 million mixed-use development project downtown that will keep us busy for the next 2 years. We are expanding, hiring more skilled workers, opening a second office location. The company that started with just me and 2 guys is now employing over 120 people. We have 3 project managers, a full administrative staff, and a fleet of trucks with our company logo proudly displayed. Last month, a local business magazine did a feature story on me. They called me one of the most successful entrepreneurs under 35 in Indianapolis. They wanted to know my secret, the key to my rapid rise in a competitive industry. I told them it was simple. Show up every day. Do quality work. Treat your employees well. Keep your promises. The basics that somehow so many companies forget. What I did not tell them was the real story. The abandonment, the homelessness, the hunger, the terror, the absolute certainty that I might not survive. That part of my story is mine. I get to decide who knows it. I am working on some of the biggest projects of my career. A 20-story residential tower that is reshaping the city skyline. The complete renovation of a historic train station into a boutique hotel. A massive commercial complex that will house offices, retail, and restaurants. These are the kinds of projects that define careers, that get written about in architecture magazines, that become part of a city's identity, and I get to be part of creating them. I bought Marcus a new truck as a thank you for everything he did for me. A fully loaded Ford F-350, cherry red, the truck he had always talked about wanting but never thought he could afford. When I handed him the keys in my office, this man who had saved my life when I was 18 years old, who had given me a chance when no one else would, who had treated me like a son when my own father had thrown me away, he broke down and cried. "You did not have to do this," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I did. Marcus, you gave me everything. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me work when I was starving. You gave me a chance to prove myself when I had no resume, no references, nothing but desperation and determination. This truck does not even begin to cover what I owe you. James, you do not owe me anything. I helped you because you were a good kid who deserved a shot. You repaid me 1,000 times over by proving me right, by working harder than anyone I have ever seen, by becoming not just successful, but good. A good man, a good boss, a good friend. That is all I ever wanted for you." We stood there in my office, both of us with tears in our eyes, and I realized that this was what family looked like. Not blood, not obligation, but choice. Marcus chose to help me when he had no reason to. I chose to honor him now that I had the means to. That was real family. Melissa and I have a good relationship now. Real, honest, deep in ways that transcend the childhood we shared. We talk almost every day. She comes over for dinner twice a week. I help her with home repairs, and she helps me figure out how to have a life outside of work. She is not just my sister anymore. She is one of my closest friends, one of the few people who knows all of me. The scared kid I was, the driven businessman I became, the still healing man I am trying to be. She introduced me to her friends, and I introduced her to mine. We have integrated our lives in a way that feels natural and right. Last month, she asked me to help her pick out furniture for her living room, and we spent an entire Saturday going from store to store, arguing good-naturedly about whether the couch should be gray or beige. It was such a normal, sibling thing to do, something I never got to experience growing up, and it felt good. It felt right. A few months ago, Melissa came to me with a request. She wanted to buy a house, but as a teacher, her salary was not enough to qualify for the mortgage she needed in a decent neighborhood. She had been saving for years but was still short on the down payment. "I hate asking this," she said over coffee at her apartment, "but would you consider co-signing on my mortgage? Or maybe loaning me some money for the down payment? I will pay you back with interest. I will draw up an official contract. Whatever you need." I looked at her, this woman who had never stopped looking for me, who had stood up to our parents on my behalf, who had been the only member of our family to reach out after the reunion, and I made a decision. "No," I said. Her face fell. "Oh, okay. I understand. I should not have asked. That was presumptuous. Melissa, you did not let me finish. No, you are not going to pay me back. No, we are not drawing up a contract. No, I am not co-signing. I am giving you the money for the down payment and whatever else you need." "James, I cannot accept that. That is too much." "How much do you need?" "For a good down payment in a safe neighborhood, probably $40,000. But really, I cannot. I am transferring $50,000 to your account tomorrow. 40 for the down payment, 10 for furniture and moving expenses, and whatever else comes up when you are settling into a new place." "James." She was crying now, genuine tears streaming down her face. "That is insane. I cannot let you just give me $50,000. That is too much." "Why is it too much? You are my sister. You are family, real family, the kind that shows up, the kind that stands by you, the kind that does not give up on you. You deserve to have a safe, comfortable home. Let me do this for you." I do not know what to say. Say thank you and let me spoil the little sister I missed out on spoiling for 13 years. Consider it back payment for all the birthdays and Christmases and graduations I missed. She hugged me, so hard I thought my ribs might crack. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means." "I think I do. It means you do not have to worry about rent increases, or unsafe neighborhoods, or unreliable landlords. It means you can plant roots, build stability, have a place that is truly yours. That is what it means." She closed on the house 3 weeks later. A charming 2-bedroom bungalow with a big yard and a front porch and windows that let in perfect morning light. I helped her move in. I assembled furniture until my hands were sore. I hung pictures and installed shelves and fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom. It felt good to do something concrete for someone I loved. It felt good to use my success to help someone who had helped me when I needed it most. My parents have tried to reach out several times over the past year. Letters arrive at my office every few months. Long, handwritten letters on nice stationery. Apologies and explanations, and pleas for a chance to make things right. Melissa passes them to me even though I have never asked her to, and I read every one. The letters talk about therapy, about realizations and growth and understanding, about how they realize now that they prioritized the wrong things for so long, about how they let financial stress and status anxiety poison their ability to love their children properly, about how they failed me in the worst possible way and have to live with that failure every day. I have not responded to any of the letters. I am not ready. Maybe I will never be ready. And that is okay. I do not owe them forgiveness. I do not owe them a relationship. I do not owe them anything. But I keep the letters. I save them in a folder in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I will want to respond. Maybe someday the anger will fade enough that I can have a conversation without feeling like that terrified 18-year-old standing at a bus station. But that day is not today, and it might not be tomorrow either, and I am okay with that. Marcus says that is healthy, that forcing myself into a reconciliation I am not ready for would only cause more damage, that I should trust my own timeline, my own healing process. He reminds me that I get to decide what forgiveness looks like for me, and that decision does not have to look like what anyone else thinks it should. Melissa hopes I will talk to them eventually. She does not push, but I know she carries the pain of our fractured family in her own way. She loves them despite their failures. She has found a way to maintain a relationship with them, while also acknowledging the terrible thing they did to me. I respect that. It is her choice to make. but it does not have to be my choice. Sometimes, late at night in my apartment, I think about alternate timelines. What if they had not kicked me out? What if they had supported me through college? What if I had had a normal relationship with my parents? And then I think about who I might have become in that alternate timeline. Would I have worked as hard? Would I have developed the same resilience? Would I have learned that I could survive anything? Would I have met Marcus? Would I have built Sullivan Construction? I do not think so. I think I would have been softer, less driven, more complacent. I might have been happier in some ways, but I would not have been who I am now. That is not to say I am grateful for what they did. I am not. What they did was cruel and unforgivable. I would not wish that experience on anyone, but I have learned to separate the trauma from the growth that came after. I can acknowledge that I am stronger because of what I survived without being grateful for the survival being necessary in the first place. I am James Sullivan. I am 31 years old. I own one of the fastest growing construction companies in Indianapolis. I employ over 100 people, and their families depend on the jobs I provide. I have projects worth tens of millions of dollars. I have a bank account I never check, because I know there is always enough. I have a penthouse apartment with a view of the entire city. I have a new BMW in the garage and a closet full of custom suits. But more importantly, I have people who love me. Marcus, who saved my life and taught me what real fatherhood looks like. Melissa, who never gave up on finding me and who shows up for me every single day. Friends from work who have become like brothers, a life that I built with my own hands. I have people who love me and believe in me, and that is worth more than any amount of money or any reconciliation with parents who threw me away could ever be. Sometimes I think about that 18-year-old kid standing at the bus station with $60 in a backpack, scared out of his mind, with no idea how he was going to survive the next day, let alone the next 13 years. And I want to go back and tell him that he is going to make it, that he is going to survive, that he is going to thrive, that the people who abandoned him did not break him, that he is stronger than he knows. I am so proud of that kid, because he did not give up when giving up would have been easy. He did not let that moment define him, even though it would have been understandable if he had. He took that $60 and that backpack and that abandonment, and he turned it into fuel. He worked harder than he knew was possible. He accepted help when it was offered. He learned skills. He saved money. He took risks. He built something from nothing. That kid deserved so much better than what he got from the people who were supposed to love him most. But he made something beautiful out of the ashes anyway. And that is the real victory. Not showing my parents what they lost, though there is a certain satisfaction in that. Not building a company or making money, though those things are nice. The real victory is showing myself what I was capable of, proving to myself that I could survive anything, learning that I did not need the people who abandoned me, understanding that family is a choice, not just a biological accident. I do not know if I will ever fully reconcile with my parents. Part of me thinks maybe someday, when enough time has passed and enough healing has happened. Part of me thinks never. That some things are too broken to fix. That some wounds are too deep to fully heal. I honestly do not know which part is right. What I do know is that I am okay. I am more than okay. I am successful and stable and surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. I wake up every morning and go to a job I love. I build things that make the city better. I employ people and change their lives. I help my sister buy a house. I buy my mentor a truck. I live a life that has meaning beyond just survival. And maybe that is enough. Maybe that has to be enough. Because I cannot change what happened to me. I cannot undo the abandonment. I cannot make my parents into different people. All I can control is who I become in response to what they did. And I choose to become someone who builds instead of destroys. someone who helps instead of hurts, someone who shows up for the people who matter, someone who creates family out of choice and loyalty instead of just accepting family because of blood. That is who James Sullivan is. Not the kid who got abandoned, not the teenager who slept on park benches, not the young man who almost starved to death. Those experiences are part of my story, but they are not my whole story. I am the man who survived, who built an empire, who learned to love again, who chose to become strong instead of bitter, who decided that his parents' failure would not determine his success. And that is worth more than any family reunion could ever be. Thank you for listening to my story of growing up faster than I ever wanted to. I have left 2 more stories on your screen, both from young men who learned that sometimes becoming an adult does not happen at 18. It happens the moment your family needs you to be strong. Click on whichever one speaks to you. And if you want to join our community of people who understand what it is like to be forced to grow up overnight, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, age is just a number, but courage defines who you really are.